Hello, we're coming to the topic 2, and the detail of the topic 2 is Introduction to Sufficiency Economy Philosophy or SEP and Application. And today we have our honored guest speaker. Her name is Miss Thantita Nakontap. She's Director of Foreign Affairs Unit from the Office of the Royal Development Project Boards, or ORDPB, from Bangkok, Thailand. The detail of the topic she's gonna do today is included the content of the theory and the principle of the royal project involving with the sufficiency economic philosophy, and also the second part of the topic of today, it would be the sufficiency economy philosophy, case studies, and also initiatives and adaptation with SEP towards Sustainable Development Goals. So welcome Ms. Thantita Nakontap, Director of Foreign Affairs Unit from the Office of the Royal Development Project Boards, Bangkok. Hello, สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ Hello everyone over there and สวัสดีค่ะ Dr. นวสิทธิ์ รักบำรุง and the staff of Burapha University. I am Thantita Nakontap from Office of the Royal Development Projects Board. Today we are very proud and very happy, appreciate to be the first one to open the first one to open the course and to give a brief about the philosophy of sufficiency economies and sustainable development. So my briefing will be divided maybe into two parts. The first one is about the philosophy of sufficiency economies, and the second one will be about the relevant about the SEP and the SDG goals. So before I'm starting my briefing, I would like you guys to see the very important video clips. Will be helpful you to understand the meaning and applicable of the SEP. The first one will be about the sufficiency economy philosophy that made by our office about 10 minutes. It will be tell you the overall and the meaning and the history of the SEP in Thailand. And the second one is very important because you have a chance to see and heard the real situations from His Majesty the King that he and the royal families work in the rural area about maybe more than 40 years ago. And you can see the king's concept work and the real situations, the difficult life of the Thai people in that time. And you maybe help you to understand why SEP is important mainstream for development in Thailand. So please see the two video clips.
His Majesty makes things with his own hands. He said that a craftsman means a person who makes things with his hands. This does not simply mean that things are made with our hands, but with our brain. The brain sends orders to the hands to move and create things. Therefore, craftsmanship is the work that integrates the work of brain and hands. This excerpt from the interview given by Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Siranthorn obviously reflects the craftsmanship habits of His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej. His interests in seeking first-hand experience of craftsmanship skills since his childhood became the tool that makes him the developer king, who is filled with ability and wisdom. August the 19th, 1946 marked an important day in His Majesty's life. While sitting in the car, His Majesty could hear a voice of someone crying out loudly. don't desert your people. He then wanted to call back, if the people don't desert me, how could I abandon them? This seemed to be the first promise he gave to his people. Later, on May the 5th, 1950, at his coronation, His Majesty delivered the first royal oath, stating, "We shall reign with righteousness for the benefit and happiness of the Siamese people." This reflected His Majesty's high determination in pursuing the royal activities for the benefit of the Thai nation. The first episode of His Majesty's development work began with the royal visits to see his subjects in all the regions throughout the country. The nation's roots had led him to be familiar with the topographical conditions of the country, the way of life, as well as the diverse culture and traditions of the people. This set the beginning of the Royal Archives, which collect important information for the development of the nation. Above all, His Majesty had been touched by happiness and warmth amidst his big family, which is his subjects. Seeing the topographical conditions of the area and the way of life of the people, the major initiatives at the initial stage of His Majesty's reign focused at relieving the urgent plight and trouble of the people in terms of medical care, public health, social welfare, and education. His Majesty found that the majority of people were poor and underprivileged due to unproductiveness of the soil. In the following decades, since 1966, His Majesty's initiatives emphasized solutions to the problems related to soil, water, forest, and agriculture. He started conducting research and experimentation in agriculture in different forms, which led to the beginning of the Royal Chitlada projects taking place in the palace compound. His Majesty also lessened the people's difficulties in occupations and living, for example by giving fish breeds such as Java tilapia and Nile tilapia for further distribution among his subjects. He commanded the construction of Khao Tao Reservoir and Hoi Mong Khon Road in Hua Hin district of Prachuap Khiri Khan province, which was known as the first rural development project initiated by His Majesty the King. These three palaces came into existence in the following decade. They served as the centers of morale and encouragement for the people living in remote areas close to the borderlines. At the same time, these palaces act as his office headquarters, which enable him to deeply assess the core of the problems in each particular area. This marked the starting point of the long-term development projects, all of which have provided great benefits for the Thai people up to the present time. Development of the nation must be carried out in stages, starting with the laying of the foundation by ensuring the majority of people have their basic necessities. The royal address given in 1974 showed the royal initiative that set the model for His Majesty's development principle, which he has continuously followed throughout the course of time. The principle is that the people are the center of the development, which must be strong and self-sufficient at the individual level first. Then, the development of the community and the nation will gradually follow. More importantly, the crucial tools for human development which His Majesty has invented are the 6 Royal Development Study Centres situated in all the regions of the country. The centres act as a prototype of integrated development initiated by His Majesty. Officials from various government agencies jointly work together based on the concept of knowing how to treasure unity. Simultaneously, the centres offer a one-stop service which the people can access for learning in a comprehensive manner, in order to be able to apply the knowledge gained on their own lands.
ดีมากครับดีมากเพราะจากที่ว่าชาวบ้านทำโดยที่ไม่รู้อะไรกับมีเจ้าหน้าที่ที่มีความรู้มาให้ความรู้เราทางศูนย์ทุกสายก็มีเจ้าหน้าที่มาคอยแวะมาเยี่ยมอยู่เสมอถ้าเกิดทางศูนย์มีความรู้ใหม่ก็ จะมาบอกชาวบ้านให้ไปอบรมไปดูงานก็เป็นอย่างนี้ตลอดนะ
With sharp, profound and far-sighted wisdom, His Majesty has laid a foundation with the aim of making the people strong and healthy, and to give them an opportunity to pursue education for occupational promotion purpose. Examples are the development of water sources to relieve the problems of flooding, water shortage and water pollution, the development of agriculture in terms of plants, animals and fishery, the development of natural resources and the environment, namely conservation of the watershed areas and mangrove forests, the solutions to the problem of water pollution by natural means, and the use of mechanical aeration devices called Chaipatana aerators, the solutions to the problem of traffic congestion in Bangkok metropolis by networks of roads, and the research and experimentation in alternative energy in different forms, ranging from gasohol to biodiesel. When Thailand encountered the growth of the bubble economy coupled with the deterioration of the environment as a result of the progress of the industrial sector, His Majesty granted an initiative which depicted his far-sighted vision for the effective tackling of the problem. His Majesty offered to the Thai people an initiative, the New Theory Farming Practice, which is a systematic set of guidelines for effective management of land and water in a limited area to ensure optimum benefits. The great economic crisis which took place in 1997 provoked trouble affecting the Thai people in all sectors of production. His Majesty the King then gave the people the initiative concerning the philosophy of sufficiency economy, which is a philosophy guiding the middle path in all modes of conduct in daily life for the people at all levels. This has become the main pillar for all sectors of the Thai people to adhere to in order to survive through the crises. Many businesses and enterprises adjusted their operations, regained strength, and started to progress in a secure and sustainable manner. Mr. Chanti Pratumpa, a wise man of the northeast, residing in Dalatsai sub-district, Chumphon district, Nakhon Ratchasima province, has overcome the crisis in a life full of debts and restarted a new life by adhering to the philosophy of sufficiency economy.
จากคนเป็นหนี้เป็นสินแล้วกลายเป็นมีอยู่มีกินไม่มีหนี้ไม่มีสินมีลูกหลานคืนถิ่นมีครอบครัวอบอุ่นมีชุมชนที่เข้มแข็งเพราะบารมีของพระบาทสมเด็จพระเจ้าอยู่หัวที่ท่านประทานว่าเศรษฐกิจทฤษฎีใหม่หรือเศรษฐกิจพอเพียงทำให้ผมได้ปฏิบัติตามคำสอนของท่านแล้วมาทำประสบความสำเร็จ
The business sector has adopted the philosophy of sufficiency economy in reinforcing the strengths of the organization, making progress from management based on sufficiency economy, as well as building good relationships among the executives, employees, and the community. The businesses administered their capital rationally, became self-dependent, enhanced self-immunity, and utilized the existing resources in a worthwhile manner to ensure maximum benefits. The year 2007 marks His Majesty's reign of over 60 years. This is a long period during which he has been exercising considerable efforts to offer alternative methods for healing the people's plight. This led to the creation of more than 3,000 royal development projects located in all regions of the country and embracing all fields of the people's occupations to enable them to live a secure and sustainable life. And now, His Majesty has turned 80. 80 years, 8 decades during which he has become synonymous with the word Thai. 8 decades of the development work during which the Thai people have been guided by the light of wisdom from His Majesty's initiatives. 8 decades of his devotion, both physically and intellectually, for the happiness and benefit of the Thai people, which truly prove His Majesty's strong will as expressed in the first royal oath. And above all is His Majesty's kind heart, full of deep and endless compassion and concern for his subjects, as shown in an excerpt from a royal address. The people are happy. I am happy too.
The king sees his main job as being with the rural poor, 85% of the Thai population. With his family, he works extremely hard on the solving of local living problems, constantly visiting the villages, listening to the villagers, and then, with his own money, starting projects in health, food production, irrigation, or education for villagers to run themselves. The royal family spend roughly 8 months of the year in this way, and there is no doubt that it is their presence in places like this which is Thailand's best defense against communist takeover.
Kings and queens of Thailand have always been in close contact with the people, really, and they usually regard the kings as father of nation. That's why usually we don't have much private life, because we are considered father and mother of the nation. So naturally, we are all the time with the people.
Still in touch with its past, where ancient traditions can be fruitfully adapted to the pressing needs of today. A well-loved king, worthy successor to distinguished ancestors, who uses his ritual sanctity and his personal popularity to get things done that will improve his people's welfare. All this, the king, the country's traditions, the people's welfare, are threatened with communist invasion. But with or without communism, the king sees his role as getting on with a job that needs doing. The king's convoy in action. It leaves more or less every day when he's in the regions and covers about 30,000 miles a year. He plans the trips himself and decides when to stop. Once people know that the king is going to pass their way, they lay out carpets in case he might stop. For the feet of a king are not supposed to touch the ground. This taboo, though no longer strictly held, is still exercised, particularly by the country people. The purpose of these tours is always twofold. On the one hand is the improvement in the people's welfare and the development which the king achieves, and this is certainly significant. On the other hand, there is his presence as king among the villagers. Before his visit, they may feel themselves neglected. In his presence, and after he has gone, they know that they are not. In 1 year, the king's convoy gave away to the rural poor 39,038 blankets, 30,778 towels, 31,010 monks' robes, 29,180 sweaters, 29,140 farmers' outfits, 20,340 children's outfits, 34,358 pupils' uniforms. One statistic the palace would not release was the number of lollipops given out, but it must be hundreds of thousands per year. The ladies-in-waiting act as social workers, taking extensive notes on every case so that each one can be followed up afterwards. This means typing up every night, and a lot of work when the court is returned to Bangkok. The King's Chief Information Officer coordinates them. There are a great number of administrative points to consider. For instance, if they take a child from a place like this to hospital in Bangkok, they have to take its family as well and feed and house them. No previous king had ever even visited the northeast. King Bhumibol spent the first 10 years of his reign traveling very thoroughly through every district of the country so that he could see the problems in detail at first hand. This detailed knowledge now forms a base for rapidly expanding work in all kinds of development. Always the encouragement, listening to their problems, helping them to help themselves.
Did they have any particular problem they wanted you
No,
to?
no problem. They were very happy. And I asked in what temple they were going, and they said the name, and I looked in the map. And there is a old temple here, and they did not remember the name.
They seem to be very impressed with your geographical knowledge.
Oh, because they are very happy when somebody comes and knows about their village.
But you go everywhere with this map, I notice. It never, not this particular one, but there is never a map from your hand.
I try to have a map so that I know where I'm going. And they are happy when they know that the official map is, the village is on their map.
Are there some occasions when people live in villages that aren't marked on your map or that have the wrong name?
Well, that is what happened now.
What is what happened?
There's a village, there's no name, and I put a name on it.
In a sense, all official functions are, as it were, extras to the king's main job, his traveling development column. The convoy contains doctors, social workers, agricultural advisors, irrigation engineers, and other specialists as required. Which is more fundamental to the relief of the rural poor? Improved medical care for the sick, or better food for everyone? The two must go together. Better nutrition means better health. The king is well aware that Thailand could have enormously productive agriculture. The problem often comes down to making the best use of available water. There's either too little or too much. Wherever he goes, you will see soldiers. Especially near the border, there is always danger. A spotter plane flies overhead. This is one of the king's new dams. Irrigation is probably the aspect of development to which he contributes most. Apart from his boat with the rudderless engine, the king has designed dams and irrigation channels himself. He has initiated over 400 irrigation projects throughout Thailand, often combining them with the introduction of fisheries. The king instigates these projects, draws up detailed plans, persuades the government to finance them, but continues to take a personal interest in their construction and development. With his quick grasp of the subject, he always makes his experts work hard. And though he seems able to master almost anything he puts his hand to, it is probably the many facets of engineering for which he has the most talent. The king carries a two-way radio with him at all times. He is said even to sleep with it. This means that he's the first to hear of any crisis. But he seems oblivious to everything as he concentrates on the job in hand.
And helped by this water here. So this water we take here, and we must put a small dam here so that they'll have water here. The most important thing is that they should have rice in this area, which doesn't have to be marketed. they eat it. It is their subsistence. They will be able to have self-sufficiency in rice here, which they don't have now because last year, 2 years before, it was dry, no water.
What do you think the communist insurgents are telling people about schemes like this that you're involved in?
Depends on the one. Sometimes they will say that they are the initiators of this scheme. Sometimes they will say that this scheme is the devil's scheme. Depends on the man.
But in a sense, there's a bit of truth in that, because they might be claiming that were it not for all their action, you and the government wouldn't be doing these things here.
You like to pose this question. This is a half-truth. If they were not there, we would not have trouble. And we would have built this dam a long time ago. But if, because they are there, we must take the trouble to come here, because the people who built this, they want to have some encouragement.
You're saying that this is evidence that you're winning?
Winning against what?
Communist insurgency.
Oh, I don't know. But we are winning against hunger. This is what we are doing. We are not fighting against people. We are fighting against hunger. We want to have them have a better life. If we make this and they have a better life, the people you call the communist insurgents will have a better life also. So everybody is happy.
And so on into the night. Impossible not to be overwhelmed by the energy of this man who works round the clock for his people. What must he think of us, technology-cosseted Westerners? The Queen told us that we could never capture his life on film because we, with our union rules, would never work the hours that he does. Such powers of concentration, such radiant energy. An army camp. These soldiers have been waiting all day for the King's arrival. That is often the case, but the Thais do not mind waiting. It is still such an honor to see the King. Presents to the soldiers. The hand flick which the soldier gives before he receives the parcel is a gesture of politeness made only to the King, Queen, and royal princes or princesses of the highest rank. It is, as it were, a gesture of asking permission to receive direct from the royal hand. After the day's visible work and activities are over, the King can spend 4, 5, or even 6 hours alone in his study at night, surrounded by teleprinters, radio sets tuned into police or army frequencies, and other communication devices. He debriefs himself on the day and plans tomorrow's trip.
Could you explain what you're doing with his maps, please?
If I see something, you see circles there, places that can be developed. And you can see a place there with a red thing there. It's a kind of for damming and for making a small reservoir. And then when they are the engineers, the irrigation engineer, I can ask them if it is practical to do that. And sometimes they go and inspect the place and can have a survey on the spot.
Why do you have all these radio sets everywhere, all these receivers, transmitters, telexes? What are they all for?
Well, communication. I think that you should know that radio is for communication. I don't have television here.
I've heard people say that this is your personal intelligence network.
I wouldn't say intelligence, but sometimes it is very, very useful. sometimes when you know about the news of some disaster hitting somewhere, you can help them very quickly, and that speed is the most important factor. So that I get the news by the telex or by the radio. Most of the what you hear there here doesn't concern me. It's sometimes there is a murder somewhere. Sometimes I can have some news of they have caught a caravan of heroin or something like that. It is better than to listen to the broadcast or other things.
When you sit here by yourself for several hours every evening, looking at your maps and listening to the radios, is that because you are a lonely man, or because you need to have some time by yourself after all the public side of your life outside?
That is a question that can be answered in many ways. I'm not lonely, and I have work to do. So I have to do the work. The way of doing work is to have some concentration, that is some peace. And then one can think more clearly. It is a way of preparing myself to be able to do whatever circumstances will have me to do. I gather information by listening. I gather information by looking at the maps, or at reading, or thinking. And then when time comes, I have the material in my head.
Next will be the second video clips about the SEP.
These pictures clearly demonstrate the simple and down-to-earth gestures of the developer king, who's happy to work with his very own hands. Above all is His Majesty the King's heartfelt concern for the suffering of his subjects. With this, he willingly devotes himself to working side by side with his subjects in the remote areas, in order to help them have a better standard of living, to have enough to live and to eat, and most importantly, to be self-reliant. His Majesty the King emphasizes strengthening the community in each area. When the community is strong enough to become self-reliant, the development then spreads to a wider scale. This is a step-by-step development approach, starting small and growing larger. This coincides with the royal speeches given by His Majesty the King on various occasions. He repeatedly suggested that his subjects at all levels, ranging from the family, the community, to the state, which is responsible for administering the country, to plan making decisions and implement activities based on moderation, reasonableness, and self-immunity, in order to be ready for any unexpected changes. In any case, a strong social foundation must be created before carrying out the next stages of development, which must be done according to actual potential rather than pursuing a leaping but unsustainable growth, as reflected in His Majesty's speech given on the 18th of July 1974. Development of the nation must be carried out in stages, starting with the laying of the foundation by ensuring that the majority of people have their basic necessities through the use of economical means and equipment in accordance with theoretical principles. Once a reasonably firm foundation has been laid, in effect, higher levels of economic growth and development should be promoted. This royal speech has become the mould for the philosophy of sufficiency economy, which represents the guiding light to help the Thai people and society to survive through the hard times of the 1997 economic crisis. To be a tiger is not important. The important thing for us is to have a self-supporting economy. A self-supporting economy means to have enough to survive. The royal speech of His Majesty the King on the 4th of December 1997 made many sectors in the Thai society take one step back and review their past lifestyles. Many began to have more understanding and realization of the idea of sufficiency economy, which includes moderation, prudence, and reasonableness, which means neither too much nor too little, while not placing burdens upon oneself or taking advantages of other people. At the same time, it is necessary to think reasonably before engaging in any operations and create self-immunity in order to be ready for the impacts from changes in the future. Equally crucial, one has to use knowledge, prudence, and morality, such as honesty, perseverance, and effort in planning, making decisions, and in all aspects of life. Although his royal guidance gained a great deal of popularity at the time, if we look back, we would see that His Majesty the King has long been adhering to and practicing the philosophy of sufficiency economy in his efforts to develop the living conditions of the villagers and farmers in the countryside. This is evident in over 3,000 royal development projects and the 6 royal development study centres located throughout Thailand. The problems of land for agriculture, water shortage, the deterioration of the natural resources, and the lack of correct agricultural knowledge were the main obstacles impeding the life of the farmers. Furthermore, the problems in each area vary according to local geographical conditions. Therefore, in order for the farmers in each region to learn about practical agricultural techniques and means to solve their problems in actual situations, His Majesty the King graciously initiated the establishment of 6 Royal Development Study Centres scattered throughout all the regions of the country, beginning in 1979. The Royal Development Study Centres serve as the places for conducting research, studies and experiments to obtain guidelines and development methods that are suitable as well as beneficial for the lives of the local people in each area. The successful results are demonstrated to the farmers in the form of a living natural museum. Each centre provides a one-stop service by gathering activities and different government officials to work together to provide services to the general public comprehensively and effectively. Importantly, the farmers and the people in the community can apply the acquired knowledge and technology in real life to make a living, to have enough to live and to eat, as well as to become self-reliant based on the idea of sufficiency economy. After this has been achieved, the farmers can form groups to build a solid foundation for the community and later the country as a whole to step forward on a sustainable path. The new theory farming practice is the royal initiative under the concept of the philosophy of sufficiency economy, which each centre gives importance to and encourages the farmers to follow in order for them to achieve stability in making a living, as well as a state of self-reliance and self-sufficiency. New theory farming is the guideline for proper management of land and water resources to create optimum benefits for farmers who own a small piece of land. This is based on the calculation of the quantity of water which should be stored to be enough for agricultural activities all year round. The Royal Initiative on New Theory Farming is divided into 3 phases. The New Theory Phase 1 aims to make the farmers able to effectively manage water, land, crops, capital and labour in order to achieve a high level of produce and income throughout the year. According to His Majesty the King, the land should be divided into 4 parts, with a ratio of 30-30-30-10. The first 30% is designated for a pond to store water to avoid the risk of a water shortage. The second 30% is set aside for rice cultivation, which can provide sufficient yields for daily consumption all year round. Another 30% is used to grow fruit trees, perennial trees and field crops in an integrated manner, which can provide for daily consumption, and the surplus can be sold. The remaining 10% is allocated for housing and other useful structures. The New Theory Phase 1 is the fundamental principle of sufficiency economy by promoting the farmers to have self-immunity and to become self-sufficient and self-reliant. This helps build a solid base for the farmers and their families before moving forward. Once each family within the farming community has a stable living condition, they can then proceed to the New Theory Phase 2, in which they pool their efforts and resources in the form of a group or a cooperative to create benefits for the community at large. The activities include product development and marketing, as well as helping out one another in order to improve the quality of life of the members of the group and creating unity among them. After unifying the efforts and achieving community strength, the farmers group can then move on to implement the New Theory Phase 3, which involves making the necessary contacts and coordination with other agencies such as banks or companies. The purpose is to seek support for further investments in product development and to negotiate for fair and reasonable prices for the produce, which satisfy both sides. This is a step-by-step development in order to ensure that the farmers first become self-reliant and have a stable living before expanding the development to the wider community and society at large in a balanced and sustainable manner. Today, the New Theory farming and the philosophy of sufficiency economy have become the main practices in the life of farmers in many areas and regions.
Back to me again. So now we start talking about the meaning of the SEP and the history of SEP that initiated by His Majesty the late King, or His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej, the great King Rama the Ninth. And although as you heard from the second video clips, that conclusion about the SEP, although its term SEP were popular just 25 years ago in 1997, but actually His Majesty the late King had applied it for more than 70 years since he accessing to the throne. And SEP is also underlying the idea behind the implementations of the Royal Development Projects. Then at present, there are more than 5,151 Royal Development Projects covering all aspects of the developments. And we have to conclusion a little bit about the SEP. The SEP is the meaning of it, sufficiency, mean moderation and reasonableness, and the needs of self-immunity or self-reliance or recovery from capacity, self-recovery capacity. for sufficient protections from impact arise from both internal and external changes. Sufficiency economy essentially refer to the ways of living and the management, thinking, and acting. They are careful on the Buddhist principle of the middle path, mean the living by aware of the truth that everything has changed. Nothing lasts forever, and one should live their lives on the heedfulness. Heedfulness means be careful on the uncertainty and try to prepare oneself to cope with the unavoidable impact from the change or from the shocks. So by the minds of the virtual, it's very important to think virtual and the knowledge. By the minds of virtual and the tools of the appropriate and suitable or enough knowledge to solving the impacts of the change. So SEP is aimed for the benefits of the public rather than personal interest, and SEP focus on the long term rather than short term. I mentioned about the change or shocks. Now you can tell that the change have the two kinds of change. The first one you may know already, the external impacts, the external change, they have in 4 aspects: material, social, environment, and cultural impacts. But the important thing is internal impacts. It's hard to cope, but it's possible. For example, the greedy is very hard to deal with it. Like His Majesty King Bhumibol warned about the human mind. He once said that people's greed drove the two rapid economic expansions, because the rapid economic expansions that happened in Thailand maybe 50 or 40 years ago, it's drove by the greed of the people in our country ourselves. And His Majesty also emphasized that one kind of dangers for human minds, the greed, it has to be rectified with more difficult than a natural disaster, because natural is something outside our body, but mind is within us. Though it's more difficult to cope, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. It doesn't mean it does. It does not mean it's not impossible. It means we can deal with it. That's why the virtue and morality is so important in practice SEP. But for moderations, His Majesty the late King also said that for sufficiency economies, it's so important to know the steps of development. Doing things too fast is not self-sufficient. And also, on the other hand, doing too slow is also not self-sufficient as well. There must be progress, but the progress must not be at the expense of the others. That means the progress must not make the negative impacts to the others. This is sufficiency economies in terms of His Majesty the late King. The sufficiency economies encourage people to live a sufficient life according to the personal capacity and capabilities. At the same time, it also allows for profit as well. And as I said, that His Majesty had hard work as the leader of the kingdom. It means the king since 1964, more than 70 years ago. And he has passed the many miserable times, even for example, political problems, economics problem, natural disaster, or whatever. But he passed by the strong principle of his concept of worth and the SEP. But on the other hand, Thailand, back to maybe 50 years ago, His Majesty saw that the Thai government at that time may be gear or maybe direct the country to the wrong way, to the unsustainable development directions, that it would lead our country to meet the devastation eventually. Because Thailand at that time, as I told you, His Majesty the late King accession to the throne since the years 1976. So he passed 50, 60, 70, 80 until the 2017, the last year of his life. And we have to say because, but that I said the unsustainable developments of the government of Thailand in the 60, 70, 80 to 90, we drove the country with the greedy because we want to be rich, but we have too much to be rich. We may be like, well, we not taking care about the poor, which is the majority of Thai people. This is a farmer. They have lack of knowledge. They have lack of welfare. They have poor. Some people have not enough to eat. But when the government of those time want to move our country to be the rich, to be the tiger, to be the industrialized countries of the Asia. So we need many the foreign current, the money from the foreign, from the outside. So we have to change, we have to lose many things. For example, we have to cultivate, we have to plant the monocropping. For example, to plant the commercial crops for the big areas, right? Rice, corn, cassava, or we want to make the land near the coastal area to make a shrimp farms because we want to export the agricultural products to, it's called the trade economics, to gain the money from outside to be the rich country, too fast, too rapid to be rich. So we have to lose many things to trade off the many things. For example, our natural resource will very fast to degradations. We have to lose many forest area because we have to expand the cultivation, because to expand the area of agriculture to do the monocropping. So we changed the practice from the primary agricultural practice from Thailand. A small one can do many things, plenty of the crops like that. In the old time, they have been aggregated farms in primitive way. But so we have to change to be like a Westerner. We have to adopt the monocropping, and also we lose the forest area, and we have degraded our land, our soil, our fresh water. We put a lot of the fertilizer, as you know, they have the accumulative impacts. And also we have to change our country to be like industrialized from the agricultural country. So we have to face with the toxics from the industrials. Then we have to expand the city area. We have to change the green zones, the cultivation area to be the city area, to be like to be the what they call the big city. So it's make the income gap, the wider income gap among the people in Thailand. It's make inequality happen in Thailand, maybe as the big devastations. And we have to rely on the fossil fuel because the industrialized need very much volumes of the fossil fuel that we don't have the fossil fuel for ourselves. So we have to buy from the outside, from the foreign. So we lost our immunity. We have to risk with the fluctuations of the fossil fuel that we lost the security the big times. As His Majesty saw this type of development, actually in 1974, he already warned the government of Thailand with the terms of the sufficiency. I would like to say his word that he said that the nation's developments must be pursued step by step. It means gradual progress. The developments of the nations must be carried out in the stage, starting with laying the foundations. It means the foundations of the societies. It means the poor, the majorities of the people. That means in Thailand is farmer. And he also said that by ensuring that the majorities of the people have the basic necessity, as you know, they have enough to eat and to live for. And through the use of economics means and equipment in advance with the theoretical principle. He want to emphasize that when the majority ready, so you can give them the economics, other advanced economic means to them. Once our reasonably firm foundations has been laid and in effect, the higher levels of economic growth and development should be promoted. But as I say, the government at that time, they respect His Majesty, the late King, but they didn't listen the ways of develop. So I would like to tell the principles of His Majesty, the King himself, and it means the working principles of His Majesty, the late King or King Raman IX, and the principles of the Royal Development Projects. First, I have to use the words of His Majesty about the development in 1970. He said to the public that the word development means stability and progression. The developments of the nation means creating security and prosperity for the nations. A national development thus aim to make each individual's life safe, prosperous, and happy. Therefore, it can be concluded that every development is good as it creates happiness, prosperity, and satisfaction of each individual nationwide. So the second important principle, I will raise as just some principles, not overall. The principles of the step-by-step developing or development according to the step necessity and economics at the aim to strengthen the community to be self-supporting level in order to equip the community with the strong foundation prior to future progress. And the progress from outside should not be brought into the community which is not prepared or made ready. His Majesty the late King wished to assist Thais as necessary and appropriate with their status in order to enable them to be self-reliant and to comfortably cope with the outside world, that means have an immunity. The third principle is tracking the immediate problem. That can be said that the first step of His Majesty the late King developments is to solving sometimes has to focus on the immediate problem in an emergency. Coping with the immediate problem approach has a long-term effect. This is to concern because the first step of His Majesty, he thought that the immediate problem of the people at that time he accessed through the throne is the healthcare and welfare. So we will talk it later. And the second two is he have enough to eat and to live for. It means for the livelihood. It can be said to be the second step of development of His Majesty the late King. And I would like to give more information about this kind of second step of His Majesty to help the people, to help the farmer, to strengthen the or maybe empowering the farmers, the backbone of our country. There have been many methods of royal implementations to achieve the sufficiency goals. First one, they have 4 steps. First one, His Majesty the late King improve the physical conditions of soil in areas specified as having problems in soil quality. Maybe soil in dry highland, problematic soil conditions such as acid soil, saline soil, hard soil, soil in the wetland, all of which need to be correct and improved. The second step, a great deal of emphasis on the ability to develop and utilize the technology, give the knowledge, the appropriate knowledge to the one that need. That is the technical sounds and economical have to be cheap because farmers or people can access to the cheap technique. The third one is support the diversifications of productions, help decrease risk and to maintain constant cash flow. That is to how to solve the impacts of the monocropping that we adopt from the Western to get the trade economies. And the diversifications production is can call the new dairy farming. This I will be talking later. And number 4, the last one is encouraging farmer institutions and organizations to take part in solving problems of agricultural sector through proper interventions, such as creating the rice bank, water buffalo bank, and saving groups, and promote the processing of the agriculture production, such as the processing of the unprocessed, the processing milk, vegetable, and the food processing. This is like the second phase of the new dairy farming. That's why I try to more explain that the step of development of His Majesty have to use you have to be patient with the time and use it in correctly good time. Give the good tools and the good times. And also they are also in self-supporting the principle for sustainable and real happiness goal. People should be encouraged to get along with their society to be self-supporting. Being self-supporting means ability to lead a life freely, sustainably, and comprehensively, cope with ability to adapt to the change in time in order to achieve appropriateness, consistency, and balance. Self-supporting can happen both at the individual and the community level. Understanding the situation faced those whom we want to help is the most important. Helping them to acquire the basic needs of life is the most effective means of the assistance. Before giving any assistance in each case, each time, we must take account in their wants and needs. We must understand the situation they are encountering and decide the means and extent to which they can be helped. Another thing, we should attach to important principle that we help them in order to enable them to help themselves. That's why in the first video clip that why His Majesty have to went to get the first-hand data to meet his subjects. It means to help his people in order to know the root cause, the real problem, and the geographical that people stay and people, the wants and the need that the real things. Another principle is our Lord is our gain is the phrase that His Majesty says. The meaning is sense of giving and sacrifice means our deficit, I mean king or government deficit constitutions or our profit. We incur a loss to reap a profit. The country will progress, but the well-being and happiness of the people are a benefit that is difficult to be measured in terms of money. His Majesty said that the governments or king or official have to loss first, mean invest to help the suitable help the people. After that, we will gain the benefit as the happiness and well-being of the people in our country. And very important principle. Another one is topographical and sociological conditions. It's the root foundations principle for the 6 development study centers. I will tell this in the topographical and sociological. This means to pay important for the people-centered and the land and geographical of the locality development to be the factors for development. People, he said, people, problems, local conditions, and lifestyles, different region by regions. And there was no single solutions to solve all problems. And another principle that His Majesty used for make the initiate the royal initiative, royal projects is a self-reliant, helping them to help themselves. You may heard many times in the 2 clips, and also fighting against hunger, not fighting against people. His Majesty, the late King, and the royal family want to help people to have the better life, and he won't look the people bad because he think that the cause of the bad people maybe come from the hunger, the lack of thing that they need. And so this is the very important concept that I want to share. And now I would like to talk about the new theory farming and also the 6 Royal Development Study Center. Why I have to give the necessary and pay attention about this 2 kind of thing, because actually SEP can apply, can adopt to all the sectors, but these two concept is the helping concept that His Majesty apply the SEP in the tangible. The first one will be the new theory farming that maybe you heard already in the second video clips. The new theory farming is the initiative, the thinking from His Majesty the late King along the year 1998 to 1994, it's about 80 to 90. In order to achieve SEP, His Majesty the late King give a tool to achieve a sustainable and achieve living to Thailand. It's called the New Theory Farming Practice for the management of land and water. He used the 5-year tool in his private land from 1998 to 1994 to prove that this theory can apply to this theory is practical enough for farmers to apply on their land. And the recommendations for this theory is not only the first step, it's a step-by-step development. There consists of the 2 steps of development, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is called sufficiency at the farm levels or individual level. The second step is the sufficiency at the community level, as I maybe tell you already. The second step, to help of His Majesty as well, to give to found the cooperations among the farmers, to found the groups of the agricultural, for example. And the second step is called the sufficiency at the national level or cooperations among cooperative and investor. It means if you want to help farmers to be rich, it can be, but you have to help them to have enough to eat first, have the food security first. That's why the first stage is very important, because this is the way of diversifications its tools. It's called the diversification, the aggregated farms, to solve the problem of monocropping cultivations, because the Thai farmer is very poor. So they have been very small land, maybe the average, the land size for the one family, maybe just 2.5 hectare or maybe 4 acre or something like that. It's very small. If the farmers choose the monocropping, right, grows only rice and just one time a year, so they will collapse. They cannot survive through the year because they have to plant for sale, not plant for eat. The lack of food security. The first tools, the first immunity that His Majesty give to the farmer is the food security. So, but not every farmer can do that. They have to willing to do. They have to have their own land, because they have to sacrifice their land to change their land into 4 parts. They call the portion is 30, 30, 30, and 10%. With these, the kind of activities, the varieties, the farmers will survive at the end of the year. The first very important one is the pond. 30% from pond. His Majesty the King in the theory suggests the farmer to dig the pond to get what? To get the water supply themselves, because we have the farmers on Thailand have to face with 2 conditions, drought and flood. The water have the volumes, if you measure the precipitations at the end of the year, maybe a big volume, but it's not come at the right time. We need the water much, but in fact, it's in the dry seasons. So, and when past the dry seasons, when the yields coming to harvest, so it's come time of rainy season, we have to face the floods, and so when we face the floods, that it destroys all the yields, all the products that farmers try to plant all year long. So that's why people in the farm sector have to face with the big problem. They need the water supply, but they don't have the immunity. They don't have their self water supply. That's why 30% of their land have to be sacrificed to dig this pond. But to as the our Lord is again, this is have to invest quite a big money to dig the pond. So His Majesty suggests the government or officials to invest the money, support the farmers by the cost of digging a pond. The other things that let the farmers take care of themselves. So it's like we help just the needs. And when you get the storage, when you get the own supply from the rain, when they come the rainy seasons, this water supply can supply into their cultivation, in the farmer cultivation, right, whatever, and so they don't have to face with the trouble with the in the dry seasons. And other things is suggest to raise the fish to get the protein source, because the brain need the proteins to good the brain, a good brain for human being. And you can catch the fish every day for generate your income, the daily income as well. And also aquatic plants to be, because Thai people, there a lot of the aquatic plants and to eat, and also many kinds of the aquatic animals like frogs. They have suggest, they have the knowledge, they have to train how to raise this kind of animals. The second point is very important. The second portion, 30%, is to grow their own rice to paddy fields, because the staple food for Thai people, the carbohydrate source is rice. with the 30% of rice, you can self-consumption for the one families, the one households, maybe average 5 people, enough to eat the rice, the carbohydrate source by themselves. And another thing for the reduce the risk can be called the risk management. You can suggest to grow the garden, crop vegetable or herbs, or the big tree like orchard, the fruit tree. It have to use maybe 5 years to before harvest. That it can help you in long term, and you don't have to rely on just only rice. You can have the many varieties of the trees in the orchard that you choose. And another 10% is for the residual area. The farmers can stay and build the house. They can raise the chicken and livestock to gain their own protein source, and they have animal dungs to be the fertilizer. Another thought maybe help to like a chain help. They have they can choose the organic farm because they have fertilizer themselves, and they have the not too big area, so they can intensive taking care of their products, so they can reduce of the using chemicals, because farmer willing to use that reduce the chemical, because all the product, the first step is self-consumption. They want to the food that be self for themselves. And imagine when then in the agricultural society, when the farms households is strengthened by the food security, so many of neighbor do the same thing, so it can improve that village to be stronger. When many village to be stronger, that means the community will be stronger enough to go progress, and the second step will be a help to them. The second step is we pursue we go to suggest them, to help them, encourage them to found the groups of the corporate or the cooperative productions. For what? For make the people to gain the bargaining power. They can collective the capital of the money by themselves, and they can bargaining the price of their production. And also when they get the big volume of, for example, the chemical, the fertilizer, or they want to buy the big machine, they can do like a cooperative to collect the money, collect the invest to get their own capital to buy and use in the community. That means we empower the community to be strong. And when they get strong, where they can family have enough to eat already, they have when their stomach is full, so the brain is planning, they have the chance, they talk, they have a power, they can see the opportunity to choose the alternative to go further, like to processing food. They cannot do by their own one family, so they do as a group of processing foods, housewives group, to make a value add on their products, agricultural products, and sell to the outside, or maybe sharing between the community to community, or their community, their self community. So when the many communities strength, so we will be empowered, encourage them to move to the third stage. This is like a maybe called final stage of the nutrient farming to meet the national level, because when the between cooperative, or maybe between community and the big firms, big organizations, for example, the bank and the fuel company, the big company will be help the people, help the community with the concept of win-win situations. The company will give the money, the financial support to the community. That means they gave them like a opportunity to step more to the national level to help to strengthen the community to choose another thing, the another next focusing, the another aims of the community. They can reach the national level and they can compete to the commercial world as well. That you can see that if you adopt the SEP, it does not mean you have to drag back to the farm and not contact with the outside world. You have to contact the outside world. You encourage the farmers to contact the outside world or outside community when they're ready. So it is the practical, the tangible concept, tangible ways of the SEP and the step-by-step development principle. So I move to the next examples. It's called the Royal Development Study Centers. There are 6 Royal Development Study Centers throughout Thailand that established by His Majesty the late King for the prospect. They have an objective, but because as I told you that the concept of the topographical and sociological conditions, that why they have to be 6 Royal Development Study Center throughout Thailand, because according to His Majesty traveled across his kingdom, he found that in the region, different by region and people different, the north, and they have the problem also different. So the 6 of the center is the representative from the how to solve the problem of each area. In the north, they call Hoi Hong Krai Royal Development, the Royal Development Study Center. It solves the problems of tackling the problem of deteriorations watershed area. It's in the north, the watershed areas, and we cutting off the logs, and we lose the forest area for the results of expand the agricultural area. The second one is the Phupan Royal Development Study Center on the northeastern regions, solving the problem of sandy, saline soil and promote the rice cultivation and animal husbandry. The third is in the central region called Khao Hin Son Royal Development Study Centers, solving the problem of the deforestation and repeat the monocropping corn and cassava, which deplete the soil's fertility. The fourth is the different from all. Kungraben Bay Royal Development Study Center in the eastern coast of Thailand, tackling the problem of deteriorate mangrove forests and the coastal resources, decrease of aquatic animals, as well as the intrusions of seawater into farmland. Number 5, Hue Sai Royal Development Study Center in western parts of the central region, solving the problem of soil erosion in dry, sandy, and hard pan soil. The last one in the southernmost, it's so for the medication, the acidic soil, for example. And so A part of giving the development concept for achieve self-reliance according to the SEP, His Majesty the late King also provide a mechanism to drive forward this concept to the wider audience via the method. This is I explained the root of the 6th Royal Development Study Center. The method of learning by doing to establish the Royal Development Study Center, because His Majesty the King give importance for the knowledge is the key to sustainable development and one of the conditions to achieve self-reliance. And so, and they have in the 6th Royal Development Study Center established about end of the 70s to early of 80s to initiate the establishment in every region of Thailand for the objective is to provide a reliable and practical method to restore the deteriorate natural resources. All the 6 areas where the Royal Development Study Center are suited used to be the bad and unproductive land, resulting from the deforestation and inappropriate cultivation method. And so, as I said, the problem in each center differ according to its location. And His Majesty the late King determined to improve the conditions of the 6 areas to prove that bad land can all be developed in order to prevent the people from abandoning their land to work in the city. In addition, the successful method can be applied to other lands to have similar problems and become the methods for the development in each locality. The second point of objective is to provide knowledge, as I said, is knowledge-based center. Provide knowledge on agriculture, which is appropriate with each locality for farmers to apply on their own lands. The Royal Development Study Centers serve as the places for carrying out the study, research, and experiment on the integrated development activity comprised of development of water sources, soil, forest, crop cultivation, fishery, animal husbandry, and occupation with some different rationales. And the center gets together of officials from various government agencies to work together. This is in terms the SEP in terms of organization. Work together within the intersectoral framework in the holistic approach to provide as a one-stop service where farmers can ask for advice and gain knowledge from the officials of their various fields at one place and at one time. So this helps the farmers save both traveling costs and time. At the same time, the development pattern suitable to the local characteristic, the model of success, the showcase in form of living natural museum for farmers to apply on their own land. And in addition, the center supports farmers to providing knowledge, training, and giving the inputs, such as seeding or certain cases, lending the input, such as the parent stock of animal to the farmers. And so about the training course in every 6 Royal Development Study Center, there are the 2 kinds of the training course. The first one called the fundamental courses to teach, for example, teach the farmer to understand the philosophy of sufficiency economies, to teach them to understand the new theory farming, so integrated farms, making compost, manure, green manure, biofertilizer to reduce their costs in farming, to plants and understand the benefits of vegetable grass for soil and water cultivations. The second group of course is called area-based courses. It different from the topographical. For example, in Pikuntong Royal Development Study Center, they have a course the training course how to deal with the swamp soil improvement, how to improvement the swamp soil, The second, in the Phupat, for example, Royal Development Study Center, they're training about the 3 miracle breeds that consist of swine, black cow, and black chicken that people in the northern part of Thailand, they prefer to raise the livestock than it's appropriate, it's suitable for their land. And bullfrog rising in Hoi Hong Krai Royal Development Study Center to get the dairy incomes, the supplement income beside the main crop incomes, the main income from crop. The second course is called supplementary occupation training courses. For example, mushroom culture and animal raising. And throughout more than 30 years of the implementations of the RDSCs, Royal Development Study Centers, the successful result of development according to the Royal Initiative makes the center the mobilizing agents of SEP to the people. The successful farmers become the model farmers. They are welcoming the other farmers to visit their farms and adopt their workable tips and technique of agriculture to apply on the neighbor lands. His Majesty the late King provide the knowledge to the people in form of the lifelong educations. So His Majesty the late King's initiative prepare immunity for the people by equip them with the knowledge for making a living to withstand the shocks from outside. And so I think we would take a break, and so after that we will talk about the second part, SEP and SDG. Okay, go to the Dr. Art.
So we finish for the first part, and we come back for the second part for today's session.
Yes,
we have
okay.
a 5 minutes break. We
Yeah.
start again when you're ready.
Yeah. Okay, people, back to me again for the second part. This part, I will talk about the little events about the SDG and SEP. It means I would like to share you about the world recognized of SEP or the acceptance in the global panel. It would be good to give you by using the speech that Mr. Kofi Annan talked and mentions about the SEP in year 2006. Mr. Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations at that time, 2006. In that year, he visited Thailand in order to give the very important award, the United Nations Development Programs for Human Development's Lifetime Achievements Award to His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej. On his speech, I would like to extract some that he very appreciate in SEP and very appreciate in His Majesty the late King development work and concept. And he said that His Majesty the late King countless rural development projects that have benefit million people across Thailand, promoting small-scale agriculture, appropriate farming technology, sustainable use of water, conservation, and flood and drought mitigations. He also added that sufficiency, economy, philosophy, he is very understanding of the SEP. He said it emphasizes moderation, responsible consumption, and resilience to external shock is of the great relevance worldwide during this time of the rapid globalizations. This is why I would like to use the UN, the Secretary General words. because it show the acceptance of the United Nations, because the United Nations is like a one leaders world's organization in the developments. Not only that I mentioned, he also mentioned that SEP reinforced the United Nations effort to promote a people-centered and a sustainable path of the development. With the award, UN hope to further promote the invaluable experiences and lessons learned from His Majesty the late King's development endeavor, and help draw attention to His Majesty the late King visionary thinking beyond the borders of the Kingdom of Thailand. He mentioned that the help of His Majesty, not only his people, his subject, but beyond the border of Kingdom of Thailand. And also, he said that it's mean the SEP essentials, the human development is a very simple concept that is to empowering people, the few nor even the many, but all people. It means equality in among the people. It is about empowering them through education, through opportunities, to health care and the nutrition, all the things that His Majesty the late King already done in his work. It's about empowering individuals with choices so that they may live healthy, knowledgeable, and creative lives. And the United Nations prioritized such development at very centers of its agenda, and UN put tremendous effort into promoting it, promoting SEP. We do it through UNDP's global and national human development reports. We do it through development works of the UN country teams in 166 countries across the world. We do it through this award. And this is the admiring from the Mr. Kofi Annan, the Secretary Biden of the UN, the Secretary General of the UN Biden. After that, 10 years later, he came 2006 and 2016. The UN has proclaimed that 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which was adopted by the 193 member states of the UN in September 2015, called the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG, that we will talk about, which comprise of 17 items that would help. So in these sessions, I will give an example of His Majesty King Rama IX initiatives, work principles, and activities, as well as the examples of royal development projects that coincide with and help to achieve the 17 items of sustainable development goals, or SDG. Tell you that SEP can achieve to all goals of the SDG practicable. In explaining the linkage between SEP and SDG, I would like to classify them into 5 groups as follows: 5P. First, people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership, because we want to be the centered, people-centered development, right? That have to care and respect the people first, and also we have to respect the planet as well. It means the environment and the resource, natural resource, the nature as well. So let's talk about the first one, the people. As I tell you that they have and consists of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals. First, no poverty, no hunger, good health, education, and gender equality. But I already mentioned in the first part that for His Majesty Bhumibol to develop to his land, to Thailand on 70 years ago, 60 years ago, he approached with the first goal will be about the good health and well-being. As I told you that the health, yes, the good health will be the first step for Thai people and Thailand and our kingdom at 60 years ago. At that time, malnutrition and health problem were the first problem that His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great chose to tackle, because he realized that human being must be physically fit before able to think and to act both physically and mentally. Without good health, people could not be expected to work or earn a living. And it became a central focus of all the royal development projects initiated by the other members of the royal families as well. Realizing that a large number of people still don't have access to the proper health care. About 1967, His Majesty the King initiated a mobile medical unit. He arranged for his personal physicians, doctor, as well as a team of volunteer medical professionals to treat people in the remote area without charge. He also encouraged the productions of the vaccine to prevent many diseases and produce many medicines for the rural people. This is a real immunity that His Majesty gives to all Thai people. For example, he is supporting the productions of BCG, the BCG vaccine at that time to prevent the tuberculosis and treatment of polio patients, and he support his own money to product of the saline solutions. At that time, we have to buy the saline solutions from the Florence. We have to import the saline. That's why His Majesty tried to strengthen the foundations of the country by the welfare, to strengthen the welfare, the medical for the country for the long terms. And also helping with leper. You know, leper have a very serious disease on those times, and curing the leprosy. And adding iodine into the salt for people in mountainous area or far away from the sea to prevent the goiter, as goiter is very serious and very not serious, they call, and very furious. Not very serious problem. Severe, yes, it's very severe disease. And besides, His Majesty the Great King also concerned about happiness of the patients. Eating difficult is the critical and common problem in the head and neck cancer patients undergoing the radiotherapy. It leads to poor quality of life, and extensive tube feet are used. And even during the time that His Majesty the late King was hospitalized, he recommended the Dental Innovations Foundations under the royal patronage to produce the Nutri-Jelly products to reduce tube feeding use and create appetite for patients. So nowadays there's many flavors such as Tom Yam Kung, Thai rice tea, and mango, for example. So about he already finished goal number 3. Now go to second step, the zero hunger. It's, as you heard in the video clips, fighting against hunger. His Majesty the late King early visit to the rural area of Thailand. He realized that a majority of people in the remote areas had a little access to proper food and nutrition due to the alternate drought and flooding, bad crops, and deforestation. For the farmers or the poor, an outstanding mean on how to lead these goals is to achieve the new theory. New theory farming can be the example to many goals. Just only practice the first stage of the new theory farming. It will bring the food security and better nutrition to the farmers. Then they can move to the stage number 2 and stage number 3 to achieve the sustainable agriculture and final sustainable development. Okay, now we go to the goals number 1, no poverty. It's like a second step of development of His Majesty that I told you in the first in the early opening. Once the body is strong and the stomach is full, His Majesty the late King then went on the next step of development, which is ending poverty. However, harsh environment and lack of knowledge and skill were the factor that need to be overcome. And throughout 70 years of his reign, he had devoted his time and efforts to approach these problems, so the people should make the best of their resources within their environment. Therefore, the important things are to provide knowledge and opportunities for them to make a living and be self-sufficient. The good example is when His Majesty the late King helped the Hill tribe people, maybe about in the year 1960 or 69 something. Yes, in 1969. And you can see in the picture in the slide. And His Majesty the late King in the earliest development project in the north, it's called Royal Project. It's established by then 1969 after his visit to the Hill tribe village in Chiang Mai province, where the opium crops proliferated. His Majesty the late King considered that the root cause of problem was poverty, and opium brought in a quick income. So he gave them the alternatives to save their lives and conquer poverty by introducing to grow a peach tree and a coffee to replace the opium poppy, which could bring them the decent income. His Majesty award the change had to be first come from within the community itself by their own perceptions and willingness to do, which was known as explode from within, leading a level of self-reliance in terms of basic necessity before development can take place, not law enforcement. You cannot use law enforcement to be sustainable solution, to be as a sustainable solution. His Majesty himself went there in order to explain the way that the villager could fight the poverty and hunger by themselves. So go to number 4. Equality education is very important. Education and knowledge, as Mr. Kofi Annan also emphasized this term as well. But for His Majesty the King, the late King, the knowledge is the key to the sustainable development, not the knowledge, the appropriate knowledge for the needs of the people that we want to develop. Therefore, His Majesty promote many forms of educations. They had 2 kinds of forms. First one is tradition educations. The second one is called the long life educations. For the tradition education, His Majesty set up the schools in the remote areas to create the education opportunities for the marginalized in the remote and the bordering areas, such as Romgao schools constructed and run by soldiers, not the normal teacher. Border Patrol Police School run by the Border Patrol Police Bureau. Ratchaprachanukra School run by the Ratchaprachanukra Foundations. We have the varieties kind of teacher. Moreover, in order to help schools in remote areas, with the scarcities of the teacher or the lack of qualified teaching staff to keep their pupils at the standard equivalent to those in the city. His Majesty the late King set up a distance learn foundations to broadcast the teaching from Wangrai Kangwon school, the school to the school in the remote area through the distance learning televisions via satellite. And on the slide is the atmosphere of the classroom. This initiative became very useful in the time of the COVID-19 outbreak, as it's providing a learning channel for the students to study online at home. And His Majesty the late King also launched the King Scholarships and set up several scholarships to be given to the students with the outstanding academic record to continue their study abroad, to make the many good academic doctors, engineers to be the immunity of the country, to have the academic people for the long run development, for the knowledge fund, for the educations of the country. He invests his own money to develop, to help the many students to have the good grades, to be the very good human resource for Thailand. And the second classifications of the education is called long life educations, right? Like in 1976, His Majesty the late King initiated the Pradabot project to provide non-formal educational for those who lack the means necessary to enter formal school. They is poor, they cannot have enough money to go to the formal school. So His Majesty the late King financed these projects, which operate on non-commercial basis, for teaching courses in the electronics and mechanics to people from all walks of life. And another example is very good is the establishment of the 6 Royal Development Study Centers, where agricultural knowledge is in display for the farmer to apply on their own land to make a living. Number five goals, gender equality. His Majesty the late King and Her Majesty the Queen Mother has always worked closely together side by side, while His Majesty the late King's project concerned on the sustainable development, sustainable agricultural to help farmers. So Her Majesty the Queen Mother emphasized on the welfare of the women folks, because she was aware that they were the backbone of the family, helping with the farming and also earn the additional income during the off seasons for rice farming. Her Majesty the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen Mother set up the foundations for the promotions of the supplementary occupations and related techniques. It's called support, which offers an opportunity to the women as well as men to improve their skill in the traditional arts and crafts, allowing members of the support foundations to supplement for the family incomes through their handicraft skills like weaving or basketry. So we move to the second P groups, the planet, the nature. The planet, we will first about the 6 goals. Goal number 6, clean water and sanitation. Water is always been at the heart of His Majesty the late King's development project. He once stressed that water is life, since it is a key in agriculture as well as a household use. On the other hand, flooding and drought can damage people's lives, and His Majesty King Ramadan IX had overcome up with the several techniques and projects to combat this issue, as shown in the slides. He analyzed and solving the problem comprehensively, as shown on the slide, which represent the royal initiative on the water resources development from the ground to the sea, starting from the royal rainmaking to give the rain on the ground. Reforestation, the constructions of check dam to preserve the moisture in the watershed areas in the mountain. Growing the weathered grass to slow down water flow to prevent soil erosion, and building reservoir and dams in the suitable site to store the water, as well as digging the pond in a small farm scale in achieve self-reliance following the new dairy farming to supply the crops in the dry seasons. And in the drought stream, he initiated the creating a big retention pond or reservoirs called gambling or monkey cheek on the or floodway to prevent the flooding. And also he used the Chai Patana aerator. He actually not using, invented the Chai Patana aerator and mangrove forest to treat wastewater before releasing into the sea. This is truly comprehensive and holistic approach for water sources management. The number 12 goals, responsible production and consumption. Sufficiency economists emphasize the principle of moderation to tackle the core of unsustainable development without excessive consumption and exploitation of scarce natural resources. Since the poor suffer most from the unsustainable development, the King Rama IX new dairy farming practice focuses on how to provide small-scale farmers with the food security. The SEP does not focus only on the farming sector. In his royal speech, His Majesty the late King urged the rich to cut down on their consumptions while encouraging the industrial sector to be mindful in sustainable production by using local material for local consumption more. Apart from the moderation, SEP also highlight rational decisions or reasonableness based on the available resources and practically well-rounded information for decision-making and risk management. We move to the goals number 13, climate action. Climate change is one of the most apparent shocks or change that affects everything on Earth, and we can hardly avoid. But His Majesty the late King had been aware of it and tried very hard to build up the resilience or self-immunity for Thai people to face with it. Throughout his reign, he tried very hard to help the country cope with the perennial drought, flood, and other natural disasters. He had produced many innovations which will be useful to other countries, as well as when the world is facing extreme weathers from climate change. The examples are the royal rainmaking, the constructions of the check dams, or the small dikes made from the natural materials such as rock, wood, which is an easy and cost-effective method to increase soil moisture and speed up the reforestation on rain catchment area. And also the mangrove reforestation project, such as in Krungabeen Bay Royal Development Study Center. His Majesty King Rama IX always emphasized on the reductions of the transportations for agricultural products, because by cutting the transportations and the transportation costs, the productions are cheaper and the world safer from the greenhouse emission from less use of fossil fuel. So go to the goals number 14, life below water. Since mangroves forests serve as a nursery for the young marine life and a source of livelihood for small-scale fishermen. Along the coast, the rapid constructions of the mangrove forest has caused grave concerned His Majesty the late King. He was a pioneer in mangrove forest rehabilitations. He initiated and set up mangrove rehabilitation programs in various parts of the country. And when marine ecology returned to health, it brought the fishermen a better catch and a proof of livelihood. Seeing the change, the fishing community became more united to preserve their sources of livelihood by safeguarding mangrove forests and setting up the community crews for the sustainable use of the marine resources. The good evidence of the success is known in all actives of the Kungarben Bay Royal Development Study Center in Chanthaburi province. Besides, there are the Royal Development Project initiated by Her Majesty Queen Sirikit, the Queen Mother, where cement block, as the shown on the slide, and the unused train bogies have been cleaned very well to be safe for the environment and ecosystem, were loaded into the sea and to be the artificial reefs as the habitat for the marine life in the coastal area in Pattani and Narathiwat province. Now these techniques has been extended to many coastal provinces. Number 15, life on land. As you know, land is one of the major four essential factors of the production in terms of economics, and soil is the foundations of land. One of His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great's method to achieve the sustainable development is soil development by solving problems related, for example, acid soil, saline soil, headpan soil, and soil in the wetland. Regarding the tackling the loss of the topsoil and the soil erosions as a result of deforestation, His Majesty the late King introduced the using of the using of the wettable glass to reduce the speed for the water runoff and trap the silt. Wettable glass also strengthens the dike in the paddy fields and reduce the silt accumulation in the irrigation and the drainage canal. Its thick, smooth network also helps prevent toxic substance from the following down to the water. International Union of Soil Science, with the over 60,000 members worldwide, had recognized the importance of the works of His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great in the field of soil resources development, in particular agricultural develops. Since then, 5th December, his birthday, was chosen as the World Soil Day to recognition of his tremendous efforts and dedication in this regard. Another subgroup of the third P, prosperity, which can be achieved through the effort to create renewable energy, good job and economic growth, industrial innovation and infrastructure, equality and livable city and communities. The goal is number 7, renewable energy. The energy crisis over the past decades has had a serious impact in Thailand because we need to import the large amount of soil, leading to trade deficit and the rising cost of living. So His Majesty King Ramadan IX experiment the alternative energy long before the world recognized its significance. In 1985, His Majesty proposed a study on use the sugarcane to produce ethanol. Further experiment attempt to combine 10% of ethanol with the benzene, and gasohol is now a mainstream source of energy in Thailand. The king also used the solar and biomass energy for his pilot project in Chilada Palace, which has convinced the people to follow. He had experimented with various forms of renewable energy, starting with wind, water, and sunlight energy, followed by the use of agricultural products to replace oil, such as making soil fuel bars from the water hyacinth, and using dairy cow dung to produce the biogas. Number 8, doesn't work and economic growth, or good job and economic growth. His Majesty the late kings always emphasized that the important thing is for the people to have sufficient economies, mean having enough to support oneself. And in order to achieve this goal, people must have knowledge to make a living. When the foundation is ready and strong, the upper level of economic development can be followed. A gradual growth is more secure and sustainable than a rapid and reckless growth experienced by the Thai during our economic crisis. It has been proven that gradual and firm growth is happier and better than the fast growth, which eventually leads to fail. Number 9, industrial innovations and infrastructure. According to SEP and the new theory farming concept, when the farmer groups are strong enough, they can form themselves into a cooperative or a new theory farming state too, to process their agricultural produces using locally available materials to produce transportation costs. The example are community rice mill, milk processing factory, palm oil production factory. To move up to the new theory farming straight 3, the community can cooperate with the private sector to set up a factory with a more advanced machinery and a wider market. To set a sample, His Majesty King Ramadan IX has set up the food processing company named Doi Kham, which was developed and expanded to the Royal Project Foundation. Expand from the Royal Project Foundation. Its products are up to standard and gain popularity in the market right now. The locations of the factories are close to the sources of the agricultural supply, such as tomato processing factory is located in Sakonnakhon province, which are large plantations areas of the tomato. And the factories on Ang Khang mountain process strawberry, peach, and coffee. An innovative aspect. As a former science and technology major before King Ramadan IX switched to law and political science when he is a juvenile. After he accession to the throne, His Majesty the late King had continued to fall back to his early passion to create the innovations to benefit of his people. He had come up with the creative and practical idea to tackle his subject's problem. The innovation initiated by His Majesty the late King is, for example, the royal rainmaking, soil acidity and acceleration and amelioration to solve acidic soil, and the Thai Patana aerator to treat the wastewater. Reduce the inequality. His Majesty the late King went beyond by addressing also the inequality, be it in this parity between the rich and the poor, the majority and the minority, people of different religion and ethnicity. For the Thai people, the king is regarded as God. However, it was common to see His Majesty the late King sitting on the ground with a map and a pencil in his hand, asking the village about their needs and topography of their areas and want first-hand information. Not only this compassion for the poor, in the facts of the prevailing ethnic discrimination in mainstream society which aggravated inequality. The king and the other members in the royal family made annual up-country trips to visit Hill tribe people in the north, ethnic Malay Muslim in the south, and Isan people in the northeast. Thai king are Buddhist and upholder of every religion. His Majesty the late King was also well aware that social and economic inequalities are structural, such as lack of education opportunity, unjust role. Peace is His Majesty the late King's ultimate goal. He was well aware that if inequality remain unaddressed, the country is heading for bitter conflicts. If we bridge the disparity gap for the poor, he said, they will repay you with peace, then the nation can survive. So will other country if they take His Majesty the late King wisdom to heart. The number 11 goals, sustainable cities and community. As you may know that Bangkok is the biggest and busiest city in Thailand and well known for its traffic jam problem and flooding. His Majesty the late King's visions and royal inventions has prevented to the capital from being paralyzed and unlivable. With the concerns of the traffic jam problem in 1970, when the government wanted to build a monument for celebrate His Majesty the late King 25th anniversary of his accession to the throne. His Majesty the King suggests the construction of ring road instead. The Rachada Pisek ring road would later expand into Kanchana Pisek ring road from 50 years later to mark His Majesty the King 50th anniversary of the accession to the throne. Through the royal initiative, roads in Bangkok were linked into Connect Web. New bridges were built and linked to industrial ring road to enable people to commute across the Chao Phraya River without having to go through the heart of the city. To tackle traffic emergency, a special unit was created with His Majesty the late King personal money, so traffic officer can be dispatched to problem area promptly. As the flooding problem, on your left, the Lat Canal floodgates as an arrow point. Under the His Majesty the late King initiatives, the drain flow from the city into the sea more quickly. Number 4, peace and justice. Peace and justice is the goal number 16. His Majesty King Bhumibol the Great strongly believed in the judging system and never made any interventions. He only gave the advices and recommendations to the judges and officials in different state agencies, such as military and the forest authorities, to remind them of their true missions and to foster respect for human rights and human dignity, which is essential for sustainable development. Number 17 goals. The last group partnership in the first phase. After his accession to the throne, His Majesty the late King did not go abroad because, according to Her Majesty the Queen Mother, he would like to stay close to his subjects to help the poor so that he could learn more about the root cause of their problem. However, in the year 1960, actually from 1975, in the 60 period, from years 1959 to 1967, Their Majesty, His Majesty King, the late King, and Her Majesty Queen Sirikit began their travel abroad, beginning with the South Vietnam, Indonesia, Burma, and following by the Europe. Country, big or small, must depend on one another, know each other's characters, and create mutual understanding. The partnership will other country is both in the form of receiving assistance and extending knowledge. The first cooperations began in Laos, PDR, Thai's neighbor, in the project called Hoi Son Hoi Sua Agricultural Development and Service Centers. In years 1994, His Majesty the King approved the establishment of Hoi Son Hoi Sua Agricultural Development Service Centers at 20 kilometers. At the kilometers of the 22th in the Lao People's Democratic Republic, following the written request submitted by Mr. Kraison Phomvihan, the former Laotian president, for a project similar to Hoi Hong Krai Royal Development Study Center in Chiang Mai. Throughout the 22 years operations in success, the success is evident in the demonstrations, follow-ups, extended resource and training. Thailand offers support to set up basic infrastructure, water sources and irrigation system for use and consumption, as well as demonstration plot with continuous cultivation and of plants, lands, livestock, and fisheries. Another activity to create of the model farmers to act as the catalyst in the learning process and the exchange expertise in agricultural development. Moreover, the cooperation goes beyond boundary, for example, through the extensions of the knowledge and the applications of the philosophy of sufficiency economies in other countries like Lesotho and the Tonga. For in conclusions, the development following the visions of His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great creates security and progress for the people and the nations. It was gradual process, meaning not too large, one step at a time, to begin by building the foundations of the people to allow them to be able to have enough to eat and to live. His Majesty King Ramadan IX had been adhered to the philosophy of sufficiency economies all along, and SEP is the underlying principle behind the implementation of all royal development projects. The SEP is the valuable legacy of His Majesty the late King, which has been incorporated as the main core component in most of the policies in Thailand, both in public and private sectors. As we have learned that the philosophy can lead us to happy and sustainable lives. Finally, I'm strongly wish that my briefing today would be useful for your development effort back in your country. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณค่ะ
So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
From Burapha University regarding to the topic that you have given us on the introduction of sufficiency economy philosophy and application in terms of the case studies, the royal project, and also the initiative and adaptation with sufficiency economy philosophy towards sustainable development goals. So thank you very much. Thank you so much. ขอบคุณครับ Thank you.
You're welcome ค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ